The dense forests of Pennsylvania stretch like a living, breathing entity, ancient and indifferent. Mist clings to the ground in the early hours, and beneath the canopy of oak and hemlock, time forgets itself. For centuries, locals have whispered about people who vanish here without a trace, not the kind of disappearance that makes the news cycle spin for a day or two, but the kind that gnaws at your soul. Children vanishing mid-laugh, hunters stepping behind a tree and never emerging, hikers found days later without shoes, disoriented, and speaking in riddles. The most chilling aspect? These vanishings have a pattern. They happen near bodies of water, granite rock formations, or in places where electronic devices cease to function. The victims are often separated from their groups, just slightly, sometimes no more than a few feet. In many cases, bloodhounds refuse to track, becoming agitated or confused. These are not simple tragedies of nature. Something else is at work here, something no one dares name aloud. In 1987, a boy named Elias Dunning vanished in the Rothrock State Forest. He was last seen playing hide-and-seek among the trees with 3 other children. According to their accounts, Elias ducked behind a boulder near a stream and never came out. Authorities scoured the area for 13 days. The dogs picked up no scent, no footprints, no drag marks, nothing. But on the 14th day, Elias's sock, just one, was found hanging from a low tree branch 15 feet above ground. A sock and a single pine cone carved with a strange, spiral symbol not native to any known tribe or culture. What's worse, those who go looking often come back changed. In 1994, a search party member named Harold Corman, who had helped look for a missing botanist in the Allegheny Mountains, returned days later, wandering into a gas station 22 miles from the search zone. He was barefoot, shaking, and his pupils were dilated like he had seen something not meant for mortal eyes. He muttered one phrase over and over: "She's beneath the stone, but she's not asleep." The FBI has unofficially been involved in several of these disappearances, though they deny jurisdiction over such cases. Yet reports have surfaced, heavily redacted, of agents being flown in via unmarked helicopters, speaking with local rangers in hushed tones, and then vanishing themselves from the record. One Freedom of Information Act request revealed a classified field report from 2002, labeled simply Interference, Appalachia Sector 9. No additional details, no names. But the coordinates point precisely to the Teadagden State Forest. In 2011, cryptographer Alton Veer, obsessed with missing person clusters, mapped every 411 case in Pennsylvania against an ancient Native American star chart. The result was terrifyingly symmetrical. The disappearances formed a precise, mirrored alignment of the Pleiades constellation, down to the degree. Veer later claimed these points of disappearance formed not just a star pattern, but a gateway of some kind. He called it the echo grid. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in his study with a compass melted into his palm and every mirror in his house shattered from the inside. Every few years, a new case arises that seems to mimic the older ones, almost as if the phenomenon is repeating itself on a hidden cycle. Some researchers suspect it follows an ancient calendar. The lunar-solar reckoning of the Lenape tribe, long dismissed as mere folklore, speaks of moon cycles where the watchers walk in mist. The missing increase every 13th cycle, roughly every 6.5 years. The next such period begins soon, very soon. In the case of Park Ranger Thomas Bell, who vanished for 3 days in 2017, the only clue to his whereabouts came from his own radio transmission. On the second night of his absence, dispatch received a garbled message that, when cleaned up, contained 3 words repeated 6 times: obsidian, hollow, echo. When they finally found him, Bell was in a fetal position inside a root system, eyes closed and whispering in a tongue linguist could not identify. Upon waking, he didn't recognize his own name. His memory never returned. But perhaps the most unnerving story is that of the Evergreen Grove incident. In 2006, a survivalist group was conducting a weekend training in the Weiser State Forest. All 10 men had military or paramilitary backgrounds. They set up camp, radioed in a standard schedule, and by morning their entire site was deserted. No signs of struggle, no footprints leading away, only a circle of charred soil in the center of the camp and an inverted deer skull left balanced atop a wooden tripod. The skull was not native. It belonged to an extinct species not seen since the Pleistocene. None of their bodies were ever found. But 6 months later, a single journal surfaced in a drainage pipe 20 miles south of their last known location. The writing inside became progressively illegible until only symbols remained. One phrase was underlined repeatedly before the text descended into chaos. The sky was humming again. The ground opened. We heard the hymn. That page was soaked in what appeared to be salt water, yet they were miles from the sea. Why Pennsylvania? What ancient ley lines run beneath this forested state, humming with the vibrations of a forgotten intelligence? Why do certain rocks hum under moonlight? Why do compasses spin in circles on Mount Davis after midnight? Why do deer sometimes gather in complete silence, facing a single direction, all of them staring at nothing? The government says nothing, the news barely touches it, but in quiet towns people know, they remember, they pass stories to their children like charms of protection. Stay on the trail, don't follow the lights, and if the wind suddenly dies, don't whisper, the wind listens, and worse, it remembers. There's a story, mostly passed down in the quiet among rangers and first responders, about a door of black stone deep in the Loyalsock forest. It has no hinges, no handle, just symbols, and the earth around it is always warm, always. They say it's guarded by silence itself, that those who see it forget how to speak. No one knows who built it, but once it was open, and now the disappearances are increasing again. A pattern has begun to re-emerge. The symbols are returning. The weather has changed. The air feels off. And beneath the soil something stirs, something that has waited, something that listens. But the most recent case may be the most terrifying of all, because this time they left a message behind, scratched into the bark of an ancient pine, half a mile from where the child vanished. 5 words. We opened it from inside. When the gate opens from within, the stars will forget their names. The tree still stands. Twisted and blackened, it loomed like a charred sentinel among untouched forest. The bark around the 5 words, "We opened it from inside," has not grown back. Forestry experts attempted to remove the inscription, but the wound remained, as if the tree itself refused to heal. Local folklore calls it the witness tree, and they say when the wind passes through its crooked limbs, you can still hear the last scream of whoever wrote it, except the scream is reversed, played backward, pulled through time like something unspooling the present from the inside out. Within a month of the latest disappearance, satellite thermal imaging detected an abnormal heat bloom beneath that very region of Loyalsock, something vast, geometric, lurking below the tree canopy. Not man-made, not natural. The formation resembled a perfect octagon, hundreds of meters wide, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat through bedrock. The data vanished. Servers purged. Researchers reassigned or silenced. One technician at the observatory, before resigning and disappearing, left only one note on his desk. It's not dormant. It's dreaming. The deeper you go into the 411 phenomenon in Pennsylvania, the clearer a pattern emerges. Not just one of location, but language. Eyewitness reports, recovered journals, cryptic radio broadcasts, they all contain repeated references to echoes, doors, humming, mirrors, and stone. Too many to be dismissed as coincidence. And all pointing to something beneath. Something ancient, buried, and possibly, according to some accounts, alive in a way our science cannot grasp. The Lenape people, who once thrived across the land we now call Pennsylvania, spoke of a godlike being named Mizingwa, the masked one. A keeper of balance between the spirit world and our own. He wore no face, only a carved mask of ashwood and obsidian, Some versions of the tale speak of a time when the barrier between worlds grew too thin, and Mizingwa sealed away the others that hum, burying their voices deep beneath the mountains. But the seal, they warned, was made from silence, and silence must be kept. What if the missing 411 cases aren't just disappearances, but ruptures? What if those who vanish are not taken, but unwritten, pulled backwards through the thinning walls of reality by something that was never meant to be remembered? In 2019, a hiker named Caroline May was found in the Pine Creek Gorge, walking in slow circles, blindfolded by a strip of old cloth. She was dehydrated, bruised, and covered in a dust not native to any known geological formation. When questioned, she whispered, "I was too close. The mirror was opening. I saw the second sky." The second sky, a phrase that repeats itself in over 9 known 411 adjacent cases in Pennsylvania. A mirror realm? An inversion? Something beneath the first reality, waiting for alignment? In 1998, an amateur radio operator caught a strange signal on a deep-frequency band used only by subterranean geological monitoring stations. It lasted 12 seconds. When slowed down, it resembled a sequence of notes, musical tones perfectly spaced, and then a whisper in what sounded like reversed Aramaic. "The stone choir has begun to sing." Over the past decade, those who investigate these disappearances begin to report similar symptoms: insomnia, visions of flickering shapes in trees, the sensation of being watched by something too old to blink. A group of independent researchers, calling themselves the Quiet Atlas, gathered to share data. They noted that in every case of unexplained disappearance within the 411 clusters of Pennsylvania, magnetometer readings spike 3 hours before the event. Always, and always in 3. It gets stranger. In 2021, a team of spelunkers in the Laurel Highlands discovered an uncharted cavern behind a limestone collapse. Deep within, they found walls carved with what appeared to be writing, symbology, older than Proto-Sumerian, etched with mathematical precision. In the center of the chamber stood a monolithic slab, obsidian-like, humming at 33 hertz. One of the team touched it only once. He collapsed immediately, eyes bleeding, whispering, "I saw the roots. I saw what's feeding." He died the next day. None of the glyphs was translated. Not fully, just a fragment. He resumed his blow wits for the key and flesh. Some now believe the disappearances are part of a ritual, a cosmic sequence beyond human comprehension. The land itself, marked long before our cities ever rose, is reactivating. Every vanished person, every hum, every mirrored whisper, they are part of an ancient mechanism clicking slowly back into motion. Something is waking beneath Pennsylvania. But there's one case that refuses to fade into pattern: the 1973 disappearance of Caleb Grin. 11 years old, disappeared while hiking with his uncle near Bald Eagle State Forest. No body, no remains. But 13 years later, in 1986, a photograph surfaced in a series of undeveloped negatives left anonymously in a mailbox in Berwick. Among them was an image of a figure, aged, pale, eyes blackened, mouth stitched shut with golden thread, standing beneath a dead tree. It wore Caleb's clothes, but the time stamp was burned into the film, 2093. A former NSA codebreaker turned whistleblower under the pseudonym North Vale claimed the government had long known about this temporal anomaly. He described an off-book surveillance project monitoring time-fold events in specific rural zones. Pennsylvania was Priority Sector 7. These events, he said, weren't random. They were part of a harvest cycle. And the entities doing the harvesting? Not alien, not demon. They are inverted echoes. As more information is buried, more truths slip through the cracks. Cryptic graffiti appears along abandoned railways. "Do not enter on hollow days." A video surfaced briefly online, 20 seconds of forest footage with distorted audio. In the last frame, a figure steps into view, tall, faceless, wearing a wooden mask burned black. In the background, a familiar reversed whisper. The second sky is hungry. Now, disappearances are occurring in new places, trails never linked before, but all part of the echo grid. The shapes seen in peripheral vision, the compasses that spin, the radios that fail. They are symptoms, harbingers. Because the hum is growing louder, because the tree still stands, because they are no longer just taking, they are returning something. And in the hollow behind the witness tree, where the air always tastes of salt, a new carving was found last week. Fresh, the bark still bleeding sap. 5 words again. But not the same message. This time, it opens from this side. The wall was never to keep them out, it was to keep us in. The carvings are spreading. Since the latest message appeared, it opens from this side. It opens from this side. Strangers have quietly reported nearly a dozen more trees across 5 different counties, showing the same pattern. Fresh engravings in bark, always in remote sectors, never near trails. The symbols are crude but consistent. Spirals, triangles inside circles, and vertical slashes arranged in 3s. Each time, the wound appears overnight, and each time electronic devices begin to fail in proximity. Cameras glitch. GPS tracks spiral into nonsense. And most unsettling, the forest goes silent. Not just quiet, dead silent, no bird song, no insects, as if the woods are holding their breath. In the earliest colonial records of the Pennsylvania Territory, long before it was even called that, there are scattered references to a place the Lenape warned settlers to avoid at all costs. They called it Eliwaknudulven, loosely translated, where the trees remember what they buried. Jesuit missionaries in the 1600s reported strange chants from unseen sources, loss of time, and phantasms wearing the skins of deer. One diary entry ends mid-sentence after a single word written in shaky hand. Mirror-born. The writer was never seen again. In 2022, a geologist named Dr. Helena Stroud conducted core sampling beneath the Black Meshonan region. What she discovered should have rewritten state geology, a layer of crystallized mineral, unknown to science, sitting beneath the shale perfectly smooth, like engineered glass. When light passed through it, it bent in unnatural ways, projecting shadow where no object cast one. She called it negative quartz. Her research never published. Her samples were seized by federal agents, and she has not been heard from since. But a colleague leaked one of her final notes. It read, "This is not a geological formation. This is a lid. Across the region, people are beginning to dream of doors." Identical descriptions from artists, scientists, children. A massive obsidian structure with no hinges, no seam. It hums when approached, and always, in the dreams, there is a whisper, "You were once beneath." These visions are not isolated. Sleep researchers in Philadelphia noted a sudden spike in synchronized sleep paralysis episodes across 3 counties, all describing a man with no eyes and a voice made of thunder in reverse. And worse, some patients woke with scratches on their chest in the shape of a downward triangle. The government won't say it, but they're watching now. Drones patrol without insignia, private contractors move into ranger stations. Satellite time over certain state parks is locked behind military clearance. But locals know. The land is changing. And the old warnings, once dismissed as tribal superstition or backwoods madness, are becoming prophecy. There's a tale passed down among the Susquehannock that was long considered metaphor. When the sky sings without wind and the deer walk backward, the seal will buckle. Deer have been filmed doing just that, walking in reverse along trails, stiff-legged, eyes glazed. And 3 weeks ago, a group of scouts found a clearing where over a dozen deer skulls had been arranged into a spiral, each bleached clean, facing inward. Beneath the center, buried in soft earth, was a child's hiking boot filled with river stones. And then there's the Elkwood tapes. In 2003, A freelance wilderness videographer named Simon Kerr vanished in the Tiadaghatan State Forest while filming a documentary on natural acoustics. His camcorder was found 18 months later, wrapped in animal hide and hidden in a hollow tree. The footage, heavily degraded, was recovered by a private investigator hired by his family. In the last recovered segment, Simon whispers, "They don't speak with mouths, they speak with shape." He pans the camera downward, showing symbols moving across the ground, like light refracted underwater. Then comes the hum. It begins as vibration, rising to an unbearable frequency. The footage cuts as Simon begins to bleed from his ears. A new theory has emerged among underground researchers, that the disappearances are not the point. They are a side effect. The real event is the activation. Something beneath Pennsylvania is responding to human presence, emotion, perhaps even thought. Every fear, every panic, every loss, it's feeding it. And when enough of these align, the door doesn't just open, it reverses. As if our world isn't the top layer, but the reflection. The Quiet Atlas Group, though still active, has found another grim pattern. Every 64th disappearance, a number sacred in several occult systems, including the I Ching, correlates with a lunar eclipse. In each case, the person was last seen within 33 feet of a standing stone, glacial erratic, or ancient mound. One of the most recent cases involved a woman named Nora Tilling, who vanished near Thunder Mountain. Her last phone photo shows a blurry silhouette in the mist, taller than any human, with limbs too long, standing beside a moss-covered boulder. The caption read only, "It's watching." Authorities denied the image's authenticity, but the metadata was intact, and that same boulder, upon inspection, was found to have carvings beneath the moss, a set of numerals, partially eroded, reading 1701. That's the year settlers reported the black sky winter, when the stars disappeared over northern Pennsylvania for 3 nights. No weather event accounted for it, no celestial anomaly, just silence, darkness, and 37 unexplained deaths. The signs are converging, symbols in unrelated locations matching perfectly, carvings that bleed sap shaped like trigrams from the Book of Changes, odd magnetic anomalies forming concentric circles across the Appalachian Trail, rituals occurring in reverse, blood floating upward. And now, the dreams are spreading beyond Pennsylvania. People in distant states, Colorado, Maine, Alaska, are reporting identical night visions. A black forest beneath the earth, branches made of bone, and a door made of humming stone slowly beginning to glow. But one message changes everything. 3 days ago, a lost hiker in the Allegheny region, found after 48 hours missing, was recovered barefoot, dehydrated, and muttering a single phrase over and over in Lenape dialect. It was transcribed by a cultural linguist. It reads, "It was not them who opened it, it was us." This suggests the horror is not alien, not foreign, but human. We, through forgotten rituals, blood rites, or blind trespass, awakened the machine beneath the ground, and now it remembers the offering. By compartmentation with the offering, because the disappearances have stopped being random, they are becoming chosen, and the next mark has already been carved into the tree, not in bark, but in flesh. And in a sealed room beneath Pennhurst State Hospital, shut down for decades, a stone slab was recently uncovered by renovation workers. It bears no seams, no inscription, but it hums, and the soil around it is warm, just like the others. The hum is louder now. The dreams have reached Philadelphia, and beneath the city something is knocking. The final silence comes not before the sound, but after it becomes us. The knocking began at 3:33 a.m. Not thunder, not construction. A deep rhythmic knock heard underground. Subtle at first, like distant machinery. But within minutes entire blocks of Philadelphia reported it. Police dismissed it as seismic activity. Yet no tremors were recorded, no aftershocks. Just sound, low, calculated, deliberate. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped, but those who heard it claimed it didn't feel like it ended. It paused. By morning, the slab uncovered beneath Pennhurst was gone. No official records, no press release. The renovation was halted indefinitely. But leaked footage, smuggled out by a former contractor, shows a black stone structure being loaded onto an unmarked truck. In the clip, the camera shakes violently as a static-like hum distorts the video. A frame-by-frame analysis reveals, for exactly 1/3 of a second, a pale hand pressed against the inside of the slab. 5 fingers, no nails, no joints. Too long to be human. Pennsylvania's skies have changed. Subtle shifts. Birds no longer migrate through key air corridors. Deer congregate in patterns resembling spiral glyphs, and nights feel different. Longer, somehow, as if time is stretching thin at the edges. Astronomers at a local observatory noted anomalies in star positions. Stars slightly out of place, as if being remapped. They called it positional drift, though privately admitted they had no model that could account for it. One of them vanished last week. He left a final note. The stars are realigning, but not for us. The quiet atlas, what remains of them, has gone dark. Their last known communication was a scrambled audio file uploaded to a hidden server. A metallic voice repeats the phrase. Cycle complete. Mirror stabilizing. Harvest phase imminent. Overlaying the voice is a constant hum, similar to the one recorded near Loyalsock. But at precisely the 7-11 mark, the hum inverts. Not simply reversing, but folding in on itself, like sound being crushed through dimensions. Unexplained figures are now being reported near disappearance sites. Rangers speak of observers standing just beyond flashlight range, tall, unmoving, masked, always masked, the same obsidian faces, featureless and smooth. When approached, they vanish, not with movement, but with a blip, as if removed from the current layer of time. And where they stood, compasses stop, watches fail. Some rangers report missing time, others don't return. We now know of 12 echo doors across Pennsylvania. Each one appears as a monolithic, seamless black slab buried under layers of sediment, always near ancient rock formations. 3 are confirmed missing, 3 more are being excavated in secret. The rest remain sealed, humming, synchronizing. But one of them opened. In April of this year, a hiker stumbled into a collapsed cavern near the Kingsua Bridge State Park. He found a tunnel lined with a smooth, obsidian-like surface, warmer than the surrounding air. He claimed he heard voices inside the wall itself, not in any known language but clear in meaning. They said, "We are the shape that waits behind your names." He was found 2 days later in a creek face down, no signs of trauma, but the soles of his feet had been seared, burned with a perfect spiral, identical to the symbols found on prior victims. The pathologist marked it as cause unknown, but in a sealed medical report, an attending physician described a smell he couldn't identify, something between ozone and rot, and a faint humming that didn't stop until the body was removed. And now, the hymn is spreading. Audio anomalies have been detected on forest surveillance cams, radios, even mobile phones. A repeating sound pattern at exactly 33.3 hertz, undetectable to most human ears, but physically felt as pressure. Pressure on the chest, pressure behind the eyes. In those who hear it long enough, hallucinations begin. Trees shift, rocks pulse, shadows move against gravity. And then, the compulsion to walk into the woods. Reports of people sleepwalking into forests have skyrocketed. Children drawing spirals with no explanation. A toddler in McKean County whispered to her mother, "He's under the floor. He wants his mask." The family lived miles from any known disappearance zone, but when authorities scanned their basement floor with ground-penetrating radar, they found a perfect circle. Unnaturally smooth stone beneath 6 feet of clay. It's being unearthed now. What we thought were vanishings were returns. A theory now circulates, found in scraps of forbidden texts, apocryphal scrolls, and oral tribal warnings, that humanity was never alone, that we are a repeat, a recursion. The second sky is not another realm, it's the first one, the original, buried and inverted long ago, and the ones we now call missing are simply being remembered by what came before us. And then came the photograph. Sent anonymously to a local journalist, it shows what appears to be a vast underground hall. Organic, like the interior of a great lung. Walls covered in glyphs, a beam of blue light descending from the ceiling onto an altar of stone. Around it figures kneel, too tall, too thin, and at the center of the altar, something bound in gold thread, face covered in an obsidian mask. The file's metadata tags it. Caleb Grin _ 2093 _ final J. The Pennhurst slab? It's been traced to a government convoy last seen heading toward a restricted zone beneath Raven Rock, a mountain base, a communications hub, and, according to an old Lenape myth, the mountain that listens. And now, a final anomaly. 3 satellites. Weather, comms, and deep space captured a momentary rift in the atmosphere above Pennsylvania, a hexagonal distortion visible only in infrared, a pulse of negative light followed by the sudden shutdown of every camera within a 50-mile radius. Amateur astronomers caught fragments before their systems failed. The shape resembled a door, and it was open. The latest trailcam photo, released, then immediately removed, shows a figure walking out of the mist near Pine Creek Gorge. A boy, around 17, wearing clothes last seen on Caleb Grin in 1973, but older, eyes black, and in his hand a mask of ashwood and obsidian. The caption under the file was not a name, not a date. It was one word: harvest. He said the forest would remember. They said the silence was a seal. They said the missing were not taken, but returned. And now, beneath the skin of Pennsylvania, the hum is no longer hidden. It is rising, aligning, echoing. And soon, it will speak. When the door speaks your name, do not answer, or you will be rewritten.